Wheel of Genre, the show for readers who've stared so long into the mirrory abyss that the mirrory abyss has started to stare back. Right now, we are reading every short story in the Weird Anthology, including this one, Robert Bloch's The Hungry House. I'm Zach, and I've probably made that joke at least 3 times now, the abyss and the abyss staring back thing, so I guess I'm running out of creative ideas.
I'm Bob. I'm never tired of reflective jokes, Zach.
Okay. Let me do that again. Yes. Oh my gosh, Robert Bloch, The Hungry House. This one was good. I like this one.
Yeah, I thought this was fantastic. We read Toy for Juliet and we read Dangerous Visions, and we definitely loved the style. We knew that was great style, and we thought, well, is the story quite for us? But it was, shoehorned or kind of forced into Dangerous Visions. And so maybe some of the style of Dangerous Visions was forced into Robert Bloch's hand. But this was fantastic. We have to read Psycho. I watched the interview that you sent me from Creature Feature. Mm-hmm. My God, Robert Bloch is so cool.
Yeah, so previously we've only encountered him in, like you said, the Dangerous Visions anthology. And he had this story in there which was like, what if Jack the Ripper was sent into the far future, where he encountered Juliet, a sadistic kind of young girl who was attempting to torture and kill him. I think we could safely say that that story was not one of our favorite ones from that anthology. So I didn't know what to expect when I saw Robert Bloch's name pop up in this again. But as soon as I realized that this one has so much more humor, like you can tell the author is having fun while he's writing this one.
I think you're right, but I think we forget. I think this was a story we liked in Dangerous Visions. It's just that there are so few stories in Dangerous Visions that were, they were okay. I enjoyed it eventually. But I think Robert Bloch is really funny. And in that interview, he shows, just like you said earlier, he shows how funny he is. One of the first things that the host says, John Stanley, okay, welcome Robert Bloch to the show, who can prove that he truly has the heart of a child. And then they just zoom in on this glass jar with a heart. And Robert Bloch goes, yes, I'm sure glad the police didn't see me on the way in, or they would have gotten me for cardiac arrest. So good. And I wanted to ask you about this too, because in that interview, it's a very kind of fast-paced interview, but the host, Stanley, asks him, okay, you've said that you're kind of tired of slasher movies, or you're kind of tired of too much gore. And he says that you think that the bathtub of blood is overrun. It's full. There's no more blood we can put in the bathtub. So what do we do next? And that's a big part of what Robert Bloch was, changing as he grew into a different kind of writer. So he was writing a long time. He was in the club with Lovecraft, but he was a little bit younger. And eventually, after hundreds and hundreds of those kinds of supernatural stories, he said he got interested more in the psychological story. And when Stanley asked him, okay, if it's all not about blood anymore, what shock can you get? If you want maximum shock and minimum blood, what do you want? And he says, okay, I would really like for people just to think, oh my God, that could happen to me. And he gives the example of Psycho, the scene in the shower. He wants people to go to their motel and every time just be terrified of the shower. You can't shower anymore. That's Robert Bloch's goal.
And it's a good turn, I think. I mean, taking the horror from out there and kind of placing it onto everyday objects that we see and like fundamentally rewriting those objects in the collective psyche. Another author who does this time and time again is Stephen King. I never enter a hedge maze without thinking of Stephen King.
That's true.
I never see a clown without thinking of Stephen King. He's kind of monopolized certain objects which were not previously tied to horror. But in Bloch's early career, when he's kind of in the Lovecraft circle and he's giving us these great supernatural images, it's that problem, I think, that we see with a lot of people who are writing post Lovecraft, in the sense that we kind of know what the rules are here. We kind of know who these creatures are. We kind of know whether they can be beaten or how the story turns out. But when it comes to everyday objects and transforming them into something strange, that is a really cool task that he's up to.
And what do you think, Zach? So in this story, in the Hungry House, is it what are we really afraid of? Because even though it's funny, even though there are light moments, it is a pretty scary story, I feel like. And I'm wondering, is it scary because of the house? Is it scary because of the mirrors? Or is it the psychological factor, like what people will do because they're scared? What happens when you get so scared? You do something insane. This is a very interesting story. We have a couple, I should say, just a couple. They move into a house. Everything is great. It's a little bit old. They're restoring things. And then they start to see strange reflections. I think the very first one is the woman is in doing her makeup, and then she sees someone behind her. The husband later is shaving, sees someone behind him. They keep seeing things behind the mirror, think it's their spouse, and then eventually they start seeing a very definite figure in these mirrors. And they're trying to calm themselves down. It's just, they're just imagining it, but it gets further and further where they can no longer deny there is definitely something in the house staring back at them.
And what I like about this story is the way that it ratchets up the anxiety, because, there's a whole cast of characters in these mirrors. It's not just the one, I guess you could say, main lady. We'll get to her soon, but it's not just the one main lady, but there's all of the people who she's killed and seemingly pulled into mirror world also are in there with her. So we get this fun thing where for husband and wife, the first time that they see the others in the mirror, they mistake it for, the wife mistakes it for the husband and the husband mistakes him for the wife. Cause I don't know, something about that where they can kind of like write it off. Like she'll say, "Oh, you shouldn't scare me when I'm in the bathroom doing blah, blah, blah." And he'll say, "Oh, I never left the room." We get those kind of like fun mix-ups. Fun moments of strangeness.
Fun mix-up and strangeness, and also huge moments that foreshadow the end, which we'll come to later. I don't want to spoil it yet, but it really tells us what's going to happen at the very end. And I'm still like, when I'm reading this, it's great when they go up into the attic and they're just surrounded by mirrors, and the husband is thinking, what on earth? There's compact mirrors, full-length mirrors. There's just all sorts of mirrors that shouldn't be up in an attic. And he starts to think, I'm panicking. No, it's just claustrophobia. But then he definitely sees something in one of the mirrors. There are moments that are just terrifying. It's scary for anybody to see a reflection in a mirror. But do we feel scared because they're losing it a little bit? Are we afraid that they are no longer saying that they're a danger to one another? Or is it just this supernatural fear?
I never really felt like they were in danger to one another. I think that maybe if there was any fear I felt, it was fear of social embarrassment. When they have people over, and the mirrors cause problems in their relationships, it's kind of like, ugh. But I think that, that's quite a minor fear. I think that what works especially well for this is the feeling that you're in a haunted house. And there's something about that scene that you pointed out earlier with the mirrors in the locked room, and, in the hidden away, walk-in closet or attic or something along those lines. It's a locked room that they finally break into. It's the discovery of a house, which, by all measurements looks quite normal, but then you discover kind of like the rotten heart of it. You know what I mean? Like it's the discovery that something is sick inside of the house itself. And, if there was kind of like an everyday life correlation to this, I could think of times where like I've, pulled the bed away from the wall, and discovered that there was a ton of black mold back there. And it's like, oh God, I've been sleeping next to this. I've been breathing in the spores, quite mundane, but I think it's like a horror of the same caliber, the same type. You open a door that you previously didn't know was there, and it's just filled with mirrors, more mirrors than anyone could possibly need. That's weird.
That is weird. You should definitely move out of the house at that point if you get a bunch of free mirrors, or maybe set up a mirror business, I guess. It's a thin line.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting too? You said so how horrifying it is, and you pull it back and you see all of this mold. Oh my God, I've been blind to this whole time. But then I think it's very interesting too, this character who is trapped in the mirrors and has been causing all of these deaths, dragging people into the mirror world. Her name is Laura Bellman, and she believed that she was the most beautiful, just like the witch from Snow White, the most beautiful person in the absolute world. And so she tells the mirror, we flash back to her life in this house of mirrors. She keeps adding mirrors so she can see herself. Classically, she says, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And then it says, mirrors told her the truth. Mirrors did not lie. Mirrors did not paw or clutch or whisper or demand in return for acknowledgement of beauty. So we have beauty inside the mirror, and yet behind it, if the mirror breaks or whatever's going on, maybe the mirror is poisoning her mind from the beginning, it turns into an absolute nightmare. It turns into the absolute ugly. The mirrors cause deaths. She pushes someone, they fall into the mirror, and it kills them because of the jagged pieces of the mirror. What do you think of this idea of, I think we see this a lot in Weird, something behind the surface, something lurking beneath that gives you it gives you the beauty. It's like genius loci. It's beauty. You can't stop looking away, and yet the ugliness comes out.
Yeah, that kind of relation where something is so mesmerizing, right? Like to look at it is to be attracted in, and it fundamentally it's bad for you. Maybe like kind of operating on the nicotine model, really. You love to do it, but it's going to kill you. But I'm thinking back to what you said about kind of estrangement of everyday things. And this is a story, I think, that gets it both ways, right? Like it estranges the very idea of a reflection. Not just in a mirror, but kind of like, in a crystal flower vase or in a pool of blood, like anywhere where a reflection could be is a potential site of danger. And I think that this story does a really good job of allowing that to really shape the reader's relationship with everyday objects in the future. And yet it also leans into that kind of haunted house, haunted object kind of trope, which feels in its own way quite Victorian,
Do you think in a lot of these weird stories, it feels like there are these relationships? We've seen it in The Spider, we've seen it in Genius Loci, we've seen it in this. You develop a relationship either with an object or with whatever is out there, this monster waiting to get you. But I think there is kind of how would you say this? A joint or like a mutual growth or a mutual infection, because the monster starts to become more like you. You start to become more like the monster. The monster, whether it needs you or not, it seems to be coming closer and closer, like it's attracted to you. Like maybe it's just going to eat you, But then you seem to be more and more attracted to it. You develop a relationship, a reciprocal relationship with these objects. And to the point that Laura Bellman, she's obsessed with seeing her reflection. It's kind of what she depends on. They eventually take all of the mirrors away, and it just ruins her. She's no longer who she is. Yeah. It says, they left her alone, caged up, a scrawny, wizened, wrinkled old woman with no reflection. She no longer has a reflection, and it drives her nuts. The only way that she releases it is when she sees something reflective, and of course, dancing into it, the glass breaks and it kills her. She becomes completely dependent on that thing that has sucked her in and taken her humanity away and kind of redefined her in a way.
Very portrait of Dorian Gray, I must say. Just this, the way that she doesn't age, but the world around her is changing. And these mirrors have a kind of way of keeping her young. But I want to respond to what you said about the kind of mutual infection, because I do think that there is a third term here. There's a third item, which we haven't really talked about yet, but seems to be in some way crucial to this transformation process. And that term is vanity. It seems like vanity is some kind of mediating force between the monster itself, which wants to get you, and the person who is fascinated by their own image. It seems like, in a sense, the monster is a child of vanity. It's a product of this character's vanity, and then also other characters, their own sense of vanity might be drawing them in. What do you think?
Vanity, vanity, vanity. Yes, vanity mirror. So people are drawn in. They want to see themselves in the mirror. That's the key thing for Laura Bellman. I don't know if it's as much as the same with the couple. However, What they might be looking for is a reflection of a perfect couple. Like you said earlier, it's really awkward. You've pitched the cringe idea, the cringe horror idea a few times, and I think we might see it here in that party that they have. They invite everybody over. Finally, it's time to come have the housewarming party, but it's all people who they don't really know because they just already live in this neighborhood. They show up, and as this couple, they're just getting more and more drunk, but they're never feeling it because they want to avoid it. They just don't want anyone to notice. There's even sounds upstairs, and they just turn up the music. They get everyone to laugh more. They want, to avoid anyone finding out the truth. Eventually it spills over, and that's when it's so awkward. It's scary. People go up there, they start screaming because they see the reflection of all of these dead people in the mirrors. But it's also really embarrassing. It's horrible. It's like they've opened up it's because it's become their secret. It's, it wasn't theirs at all. And now they're in this house, and now they've been trying to hide this house, and now everything that they've been trying to keep secret is now out. And the whole party sees it. It's deeply embarrassing for them. And I wonder if that is their vanity. It's been shattered. They thought they were a perfect couple, and now everyone knows they're not.
Love it. I think that's a really good reading of the situation. I guess I hesitatingly agree that you could see this as a kind of like cringe horror. It doesn't go as far as some of the stuff, in post 2020 or something. But this idea of you're kind of wincing along as the monster in the attic is making fools of everyone. It's more painful. It's more uncomfortable as a reader to watch them struggle to not be embarrassed than it is when someone actually dies. You know what I mean? It's not the blood that makes you go, ugh. But I just realized that I was trying to give an example, but I did the unfortunate thing of I watched the TV adaptation before we recorded this, and I was overwriting my memory.
What do you mean? I didn't know there's a TV adaptation. You didn't even tell me there's a TV adaptation. Where did you find this?
Well, I had sent you the interview, and it took you a long time for the read receipt to come on. So I was like, Bob's busy. Okay. I can't send him 2 YouTube videos in a day. But yeah, if anyone wants to catch up on it, it's on YouTube. It's from Boris Karloff's Thriller, and it's been retitled as The Hungry Glass, which I think might be a slightly more accurate, at the very least, title than The Hungry House. But get this, it stars William Shatner as the husband. And so cool. I gotta say, I love Shatner, but his nervous, coked up energy is absolutely perfect for a husband who's seeing things in mirrors. And what the TV show does that is different. I mean, every adaptation is in some ways a rewriting. And I'm not against people adding things or taking away things because different mediums require different things. And I think that's totally fine. But what it adds for him is PTSD from Korea. So he has this whole plot line, character angle where he's like, oh, I saw things like this when I had a fever in Korea. I'd see images of all my dead squad mates. And the people would be like, was it these people in the movie? He'd be like, no, but they were just as real. Shatner with his delivery, it added a really nice multi-layered presentation of these characters that much better, I think, than what you get in the text version, in Bloch's version.
Shatner brings anything to life. Speaking of great actors and great acting and playwrights, Zach, I want to throw a couple things at you, going back to mirrors and mirrors in horror. Mirrors often occur in horror. There's a great Irish movie, I think it's called The Hole, but there's a scene where all of the mirrors are cloaked. There's a black cloak over every mirror because you don't want to see the reflection of it. But I was thinking, when we read Richard II, there is a long speech about mirrors, and it's very famous, very important, because people would argue that he takes the mirror, which is his reflection of what he thinks a king should be. He used to look in the mirror and see the king. He no longer does. Shattering the mirror, he becomes something else. He becomes more human. But he says this. He says, was this the face that, like the sun, did make beholders wink? Is this the face which faced so many follies that was at last outfaced by Bolingbroke? A brittle glory shineth in this face, as brittle as the glory is the face. And then he throws down the mirror, breaks the mirror, looks at all of the shattered pieces, and he says, for there it is, cracked in 100 shivers. Mark, silent king, the moral of this sport. How soon my sorrow hath destroyed my face. Now, I was very confused by the end of this story because, spoilers, major spoilers, the husband eventually murders his wife very brutally, and he thinks that he's saving her. He goes down into the basement, and of course, in any horror movie, if you hear a leaky pipe after your house has been scary as hell, do not go down the stairs. But anyway, they go and they say, oh, we should really fix this pipe, even though we're about to leave.
Just let it flood.
Just let it flood. Get the hell out of there. So they go down. Then he starts to see everything reflecting in the water. He sees the face down there. And earlier, he's had the wrench in his hand. He went and destroyed all the mirrors so they would be safe. Robert Bloch even tells us he wasn't doing it because he was angry. He wasn't doing it because he was crazy. It was just the right thing to do. Now he goes. He attacks the wrong thing, but his wife dies. He murders his wife. When he calls the police, he's already reasoning that he's going through his reasoning like he's flipped. I'm wondering, like, why does this happen? There's the foreshadowing at the beginning where they see each other in the mirror. They think they see each other, but it's this terrible malevolent force, and eventually they will see each other in the mirrors because they will be parts of those mirrors. But what did you think, like, when he says, he even tells the police it was about vanity? What is going on in the end? Why shatter the mirror? For, Richard II, he escapes his trap, but why are they now, in shattering the mirror or thinking they're shattering the mirror, why are they now sucked into the trap further?
Well, in one sense, I guess you could maybe say that it was never about vanity. It was just, maybe the original person, it was about vanity, but maybe, like you said, maybe for the husband and wife, it wasn't really actually about vanity for them. Or I guess you could flip it the opposite way and say that vanity is inescapable. Just the fact of catching eyes with yourself as you stare into the mirror, shaving and saying, "Oh, you handsome devil, looking real nice." Common human experience, I hope. So maybe he's saying that it wasn't actually about vanity. Maybe he's saying that it is about vanity that is everywhere and inescapable, or maybe at the heart of it, it's just incoherent. I'm not really sure what to make of the ending.
I was wondering too, I think you're right. It maybe is about vanity, maybe it's not, maybe it's getting trapped in between the two. But again, it reminds me very much of Genius Loci or Genius Loci, as people have told us. But thank you for telling us. But it reminds me of that because at the very end, the three people who have died, it's four, so three. The old man dies, then the painter dies, and then the painter's fiance dies, and we think that the writer is going to go back and probably die. But the very final image we see is this first separate three faces. They merge into some weird face between the three of them, and this happens the same way in this story. It says, "It had the face of an old woman, and the face of a child, and the face of a bearded man, and his face and her face changing and blending." I'm wondering, is it also maybe vanity, being unable to escape vanity? Or I wonder too, is it thinking that you can outwit the weird, or thinking that you can outwit the Genius Loci, and then it, no matter what, will take what it wants. It takes what is due it. It takes what is its due, and then it does whatever it wants. It becomes the creator, it becomes the artist. You can't escape its art.
That is, I would say, a characteristic of what makes weird fiction good. This idea that you don't know how to stop it. Maybe it's possible to stop it, but you don't know how, and inevitably lose in the end. I think that's what keeps weird fiction interesting to me, as opposed to just like a Beowulf retelling where the hero goes out and slays the monster and comes back home.
I'm a sucker for the Beowulf retellings, but yes, I do know what you mean. Yes, the mirrors, whatever it is, whatever thing is out there, it seems to have its game, and we think we can outwit it, but we seem not to be able to outwit it. I think the real moral of the story is to do what you do, Zach. Look in the mirror and say, "Hey, good looking," and then everything is going to be fine. When you start questioning the mirror, that's when it goes a little bit batty.
Well, I know for myself, I absolutely have to read more Robert Bloch. I'm actually, as much as I am interested in Psycho, I am equally as interested in his early years, where he's kind of in the Lovecraft circle. I want to see more of that. So lots to explore. I'll talk to you later, Bob.
I'm looking at you through your window right now, Zach.